power to change the national political landscape like never before. Although we began organizing in cities like New York and Chicago for decades, today we are in a position to transform the social, cultural, and political landscape of the country as our numbers grow in cities like Orlando, Miami, and Tampa. Since 1977, prominent institutions and individuals have contributed to the strengthening of Orlando's Puerto Rican diaspora. Florida's share, 29%, of total inflow from Puerto Rico to the United States between 2005 and 2016 far exceeded any other state. The migration to Florida has increased, and Florida is in trend to house more Puerto Ricans than traditional hubs like New York. By 2016, the total number of Puerto Ricans in Florida had risen to 1,067,747, an increase of 23% since 2010. This before the massive exodus that occurred after Hurricane Maria ripped through the island in 2017. The aftermath of this storm prompted the longest blackout in U.S. history, blatant disparity in federal disaster relief aid, and the highest death toll after a disaster in modern U.S. history. Puerto Ricans are American citizens, and as such, can register to vote in any and all elections once they are stateside. This political power is now being leveraged by Alianza for Progress. Alianza for Progress works hard to engage the Puerto Rican and Hispanic communities in Florida to be major actors in the decision-making process, propelling Hispanics into political office through strategies that use phone banking, texting, and Facebook, among other media, and creating a robust, informed, and enthusiastic street team of canvassers to reach out to our neighbors at their doors and at events. We cannot change Florida without a strong, progressive Latino force. Latinos cannot be that progressive force without a strong and organized Puerto Rican community. Strengthening the diaspora is our job.
Together we are stronger. One force united. For progress, for dignity, for Puerto Rico, and for Latinos here in Florida.
Unidos somos más fuertes.
Together we are stronger.
Una fuerza unida para el progreso.
Para la dignidad.
Por Puerto Rico. Respeta a mi gente.
Together we are stronger.
More power for change.
For growth.
For equality and prosperity.
Together we are a united America for all. Our future is Latino. Pa'lante Boricua. Together we are Alianza.
Hi everyone, my name is Christina and I'm the Communications Director at Alianza for Progress. I'm very excited to be here today moderating this Facebook Live in partnership with one of our amazing community partners, Urbanger. Like Alianza, Urbanger supports leadership. They host a lot of wonderful workshops and events, and they've got a lot of great resources on their website. I will be sure to drop their website URL in the comments below so you can check them out after our live. Today we're going to be talking about interview best practices, and I have with me Dr. Maria Luna Garcia. Dr. Maria Luna Garcia is Senior Consultant at Urbanger. She holds a Doctorate of Management in Organizational Leadership and a bachelor's degree in Business Management. She has put together a wonderful presentation for us, and at the end of the presentation, we will hold a Q&A. So if you have any questions for Dr. Luna, please drop them in the comment section below, and we will get to them at the end of her presentation. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce Dr. Luna. Dr. Luna, thank you so much for being here with us today, and I will let you take it away from here.
Today, thank you, Alianza, for this wonderful opportunity. One of the first steps to getting a job is to get an interview. So to prepare for an interview, it is very important to know what are the expectations of that potential employer, what will be the duties of the position that you're applying to, the knowledge and the skills required for each position. You also have to understand and have a clear understanding of what the value of what you have to offer to each position is, and what also to the organization, and how does your experience apply to what is required for the job. You need to also take that job description and learn how to read between the lines and identify all the hints, explicit and implicit, found in that job description, because it might give you a lot of information that you can use when you prepare for the interview. On this training, we will focus on understanding what the interview process is and the do's and don'ts of an interview. And I will also talk to you a little bit about a technique for building solid responses that will give the employer the information that they are looking for. So let's start with the basics. What are the goals of an interview? Before jumping ship into a new company, you want to test the waters, and that is what the interview is about. The purpose, although sometimes we feel like it's a one-way process, it's a two-way process. It has a twofold purpose. It shows the employer what you can do for the company, and it gives you an opportunity to assess whether your qualifications and your career ambitions align with the position and the organization. The basic objective of the interviewer is to develop a good understanding of the person's qualifications, the interests, the character traits that are relevant to the position that is being filled. And there are many things that are valued for different positions, and it will depend on the type of position that you're applying to. But recruiters are mostly trying all to answer some basic questions. Is this person a good character? Does he or she has a good character that is not going to cause any problems or disrupt teamwork that is already in place? Does this person have the necessary level of professionalism that we want in this organization? Does this person has the knowledge and the skills needed to do the job, or can he or she be trained in a reasonable amount of time? Is this person a good fit for the position, so he or she and the rest of the team will be able to work happily and be productive? And ultimately, is this candidate likely to become a good long-term employee of the company or the organization, which is what basically employers want. When you are hired in an organization, the organization is making an investment on you. They're training you, they're giving you knowledge that you will acquire, and they want that value given back to them, or their ROI with the employee. Because every time an employee quits and leaves the company, they have to go through the process again, and then that means that they're going to spend more money, and they'll have a position that's not filled and will be empty, reducing productivity. So what is it that the employers seek? From the perspective of the possible employer, they will be trying to assess whether you as a candidate, not just you just not look good on paper, but will you be good in person? So interview questions are the best way to assess soft skills, which is what we see in the slide. And interview questions offer an opportunity for personal interaction and follow-up questions. So these soft skills make all the difference. These are the personal qualities that make people easy to work with, and they are critical for job performance and especially for cultural fit. They are very hard to quantify, and you can include them in your resume and say, I have these qualities, but they are very, very difficult to measure inside a resume. So it is important that you know and identify your technical skills for the area of interest that you are applying to, and be prepared to use them in your responses, because that's what they are going to be looking for. In the interview, you'll have different types of questions. I'm just going to go through some of the most common, starting with the unstructured question. This is an open question, and they are generally questions that seek to start the flow of the dialogue between the interviewer and the candidate, allowing the person to provide a broad response. It's usually the first stage of the interview where you start to create that rapport, and they usually use them at the beginning, so you start relaxing a little bit more, and you can start the flow of the interview. Through these type of questions, they will be evaluating your fluency, your communication skills, and your coherence. Are you able to provide a coherent sentence and a good train of thought? And the questions will be like, for example, tell me about yourself. Why are you interested in this position? Why did you decide to study the career that you study? What do you like the most about your work? And these are all general questions, open questions. And it's possible to prepare for these type of questions because they are very common. It's very important to find a balance in our speech so that we express ourselves with ease without giving very long answers. And the key to these type of questions is to concentrate on the most meaningful and relevant information. The competency questions, the objective of this type of question is to evaluate if the candidate has the necessary knowledge to perform the job. And depending on the position that you're applying to, the recruiter will make questions about your experience and your competencies. For example, what were the main functions you performed in your previous job? Tell me what knowledge or skills prepare you for this position. Or I see that you have an advanced knowledge in X program or area of expertise. Can you give me a short summary of how you have applied those skills in the past 3 years? And probably most of this information is going to be included in your resume. However, the recruiter is going to want a bigger picture, something that it's not that goes beyond the resume. So by using specific examples, you can help and clearly show why you meet the expectations for the position and help that interviewer make the connection and see that you are a fit for the position. Behavioral questions, when people hire you or you've been given a contract in an organization, it's not only important that the candidate can do the job. So behavioral questions will try to find out what the person's behavioral profile is to assess whether they can successfully integrate with the work team. For example, how do you handle stress? Give me an example of your work life in which you have shown integrity. Tell me about a time when you made a mistake in your work. How did you solve it? And probably most of the questions are going to be related to the position, but more or less they all will have to do with how you deal with a situation, how you react. And the best tip that I can give you for this type of questions is to anticipate it by analyzing how your behavior at work is and what are your strengths and what are your areas of opportunity. So you have to prepare yourself with typical scenarios of the work environment that you know are maybe the bigger possibilities that they're going to ask me about. So stress, pressure, decision-making, labor conflicts, etc. Situational questions, once the interviewer analyzes your behavior, now he knows how you behaved in the past. So now he can resort to situational questions to get an idea of how or what your future behaviors will be. For example, how do you respond to pressure? Not how you deal with stress, but how do you respond to pressure? Imagine that you have X problem at work, and they usually will use examples that are close to the actual environment of the office, of the organization. How would you solve it? What would you do if your boss delivers a report with incorrect figures during a meeting? So the for this type of questions, there is not a single correct answer, and it will reveal our ability to solve problems and to adapt to different situations. So a good practice with this type of questions is to think about a similar experience that you may have lived and talk about how you used your skills to face it. And ultimately, the trap, these may be absurd or incoherent questions that, depending on the recruiter and the company and the position, you may have to answer questions that seem to leave the work context. It doesn't have to do with the position or the work, and they're totally out of context. And the purpose of these type of questions is to move you away from standard questions that you know that you can prepare yourself for. As an interviewer, you want to see how spontaneous this person is, how creative. So they want to subject you to a mental challenge that reveals a little bit more about your personality. So questions may be like, if you could be an animal, what animal would you be? Or what color? Is there more objects in your bedroom? What would you prefer, being number one employee but hated by the rest of your colleagues, or being number 15 but appreciated by all? So what the interviewer wants here is he is expecting an honest and spontaneous answer. And remember, there are no wrong responses for these answers, for these questions, because they are going to belong to your personality and how you actually how you are. And a different type of interview, the virtual interview. We have seen the virtual interview before, usually for screening, like pre-screening before the face-to-face. But now, because of the crisis caused by the COVID-19, it has put us all in a situation where we have had to bring out flexibility and adaptability as a personal competence. So one of the things one of the challenges is actually adapt to a new digital environment that is in constant change. Some of the tools that we have been using for this type of interviews, it's precisely the one that we're using today, but there's also Hangouts, Skype, Zoom, Blue Jeans, Teams, Duo, Google now one has a platform, Facebook has a platform. So the important thing is that you, before you start planning an online interview, you take the time to prepare yourself. First, you condition the space. Where am I going to be doing this interview? Don't go to a cafeteria where there's a lot of noise. So ideally, it should be in a place where you have neutral colors with no visual distractions. If you don't, well, at least make sure that it is tidy and organized, because that gives an impression of how your desk is going to be if you actually start working for that company. Make sure that you have good lighting. You're not going to have the face-to-face, but you want to make sure that that interviewer sees you, sees your face, and sees your facial expressions. So check that you have sufficient lighting. Try to control noise as much as you can to the best of your ability, so that you have the least interruptions possible. You need to be totally focused on your interview. And interruptions, they can be an external factor that can play a negative influence in your interview. So if you have a dog, a cat, kids, whatever, you make sure that you are, they take them for a walk, or you are in a very quiet place where you can concentrate. Next thing you have to take into consideration is how am I going to look? Your image, how you're going to present within this non-physical environment. So keep in mind that with this environment, it's going to be a little bit different. It's colder. It's not like when you're sitting in front of a person that you can read the small cues. You're not going to have that here. So you try to look the best that you can, and to including your body language and everything. Spend time with your hygiene, that you, including your hairstyle. If you're a girl and you're going to use makeup, try to use natural makeup. Unnecessary makeup is not recommended for an interview. No excessive jewelry, etc. So Make sure that you're well dressed and your body posture. Make sure that you position yourself properly, that you're not slouched or inclined. And always try to look either at the screen or at the camera. So just as if you were looking at the eyes of your interviewer. And one of the things that I always recommend is to be conscious of the speed in which you are speaking, because sometimes when you are online, or especially when you are in a high stress environment like an interview, it can make you start speaking quickly, nervousness. So make sure that you do it slowly. Sometimes the connection may not be the best one, and speaking calmly helps understanding, especially if English is not your first language, or you are speaking to someone whose English is not a first language. And last but not least, spend time learning about that company. Always the first step when we know that we are going to do an interview is to investigate, to explore, to study the company for which we are going to interview, to get familiar with what they do there. The person who's going to interview will almost certainly ask you at some point, if not at the beginning or during the interview, he or she is going to ask you questions regarding whether you know the company, the sector, or the activity, what they do there, or some aspect related to the organization. Always have a notepad and a pen handy, and make sure to write down the most important things, and let the interviewer know that you will be taking notes, so that he or she knows that you're not looking at your cell and you're distracted. So make sure that you write the name of the person that's interviewing you, so you don't forget the name of this person in the middle of the interview, and pay attention to every word that this person is saying from the beginning to the end of the interview, because every word is important. Preparing for an interview. How do you prepare for the interview? There's some work that you have to do before you sit in front of a screen, or in front face-to-face with an interviewer. And the first thing you have to do is research the company and the industry. On this slide, we have some of the tools that are available for researching a company. But make sure that you find out and learn about what skills and experience this company values, who are the key players of the organization, the president, vice president, head of HR, etc. Are there any news or things that have happened with this organization, in the recent past? Or what is the company's culture, the mission, the vision, the values? What are the products that this company delivers? What is the inside scoop? And for the inside scoop, Glassdoor is a great resource, because that is a site where you go, and it's people that are working or have worked in an organization, they evaluate them. So it's very honest and it's very straightforward. So if you really want to know what's happening in a company, go to glassdoor.com. And please research the person that is going to interview, if you know who that person is, because once you get to know that person, it might give you commonalities, something that we have in common that I can use during my interview to create an impact with that person. So make sure that you are looking good, that you have a firm handshake or good eye contact when you're doing it online. Let that person know that you are understanding and that you are listening to what they are saying, and be confident. Not arrogant, but be confident in the way that you deliver yourself. And make sure that you dress to impress. Make sure that when you do the phone call to schedule the interview, you ask this person that's calling you, what is the dress code? So you make sure that you are dressed correctly. During the interview, well, fortunately, most interviews follow a very similar pattern consisting of 3 stages, which are the introduction, the information exchange, and the wrap-up. Try to arrive as early as you can. Arriving early for an interview is a sign of respect to the interviewer, and it speaks a lot about your responsibility and the way that you conduct your professional life. So make sure to have good directions and to know where you're going, how long it will take me to get there. Is there parking close by? Do I need to pay? Because you don't want to, drive to that place and then you discover that the parking is 2 blocks away and then you had to park and you didn't have any cash on you. So you have to plan for all of this. So you can be at least 15 minutes before the interview, just sitting there waiting to be called for the interview, and show respect to everyone. Your interview starts when you enter the building. You never know who you're going to meet at the lobby, who's going to be at the elevator, and be respectful to everyone, because the receptionist's opinion can make or break your offer. In the introduction, although this is a very short segment of the interview, it's a great opportunity to make a first great impression. There is no second chance for a first good impression. So this is where you make that good impression, demonstrating that you're a secure person and giving them the good handshake, and demonstrating that you're there for the right reasons. The information exchange is going to be the focus on the interview, and it's going to last more or less like 15 or 20 minutes long. This is the opportunity that you have to show that you are the best candidate for the position. This is where you lead that person to make the fit, to say, okay, this person fits with the interview. So it's very important that during this information exchange, you make sure that you highlight your soft skills and everything that has to do with the position that you are applying for. The wrap-up will last for 5 or 10 minutes, and it is common for the interviewer to ask, do you have questions for me? So remember that your questions should address topics such as the details about the position, the skills, the qualifications that this organization is seeking. Avoid asking questions related to salary or benefits or personal topics. They will usually tell you how long it's going to take before they will contact you after the interview. But if they don't, it is okay to ask as, what are the next steps, because that gives them a message that you are serious about the interview and that you're really interested in the position. And always have in mind that it is very important that you create a connection with this person, because up to this point, you have been a name on a paper. They got your resume, they went through your resume, they don't know who you are. So now you're putting a face to that name, and you want to make sure that after you leave the interview, this person remembers who you are, because when they're evaluating the candidates, you want them to remember you. So it is good that you create that connection. That's when researching the person or the organization, when you do that research, you can find things that you can use to connect with that person. For example, you read that this person that's interviewing you went to Dubai on a commercial mission. So maybe you have any questions for me. If everything has been clear for you and you really don't have any questions for you, maybe you say, well, everything is very clear for me, but I would really appreciate if you would share with me what your experience during that Dubai commercial trip was, so that when you leave there, he's going to remember, oh, this is the person that asked me about the Dubai trip. So you're going to create that connection. The employer, they will ask you questions about your resume, your skills, and everything that you have included in your resume. But the important thing is that you need to give them a wider impression, a wider picture of what really you are, and presenting in a way that connects you to the position that you're seeking. This is the time that you have to change that first impression if it wasn't very good, and provide depth to your resume and provide an insight on who you are. And remember who you are from a professional standpoint, not from a personal standpoint. And the next big question is, how do I structure a good response? They say that the best predictor of future performance is past performance in similar situations. So this technique, which is called the STAR technique, helps you craft a clear response that provides specific examples or situations based on actual past behaviors, instead of just make your response on hypothetical questions. It is a structured manner of responding to an interview question by discussing the specific situation, the tasks, the actions, and the results of the situation you are describing. For example, the situation, you will describe that you were, what task you were in, or what you needed to accomplish. And you should describe the task as a specific event or a situation, not a generalized description of what you have done in the past, but focus on a specific situation, and be sure to give enough detail for the interviewer to understand. It can be from a previous job, it can be from a volunteer experience, or any relevant event. Next, the tasks. That's easy. What was the goal that you were working toward? The actions, through the actions, you will describe the steps that you took to address the situation, providing a good amount of detail to keep the focus on you. If it's a team project, it's what you did, what specific steps you did, and what was your particular contribution. So when you're doing this, you use the word I, not we, when you are describing the actions. And the results, describe the outcome of your actions, and don't be shy about taking credit for the results and your behavior. So what happened? How did the event, if it was an event, how did the event end? What was the result of this project? What did you accomplish? What did you learn? That's very important too. So make sure your answer contains positive results. And make sure that you include all the parts of the STAR method, and be as specific as possible at all times without rambling or including too much information. So let me give you an example of an effective STAR response. Give me an example of when you had to persuade others to your point of view. The response: I was part of a negotiating team for my department when we negotiated our last contract. Let me tell you, the bargaining on this one was tough. No one wanted to give an inch, but in the end, we got them to agree to most of our demands. If you see, it has all the parts of the STAR response. It has a situation, it has a task, it has an action, and it has a result, but you stayed up here. And what you want to do is you want to do a deep dive. So instead of just saying that, you can say, I was part of a negotiating team for my department. The supplier wanted a large increase of 8%. I listened carefully to the supplier needs. I collected data. I presented analytical data to support. I worked with management to change some requirements. And the final agreement was only a 5% increase, but it saved the company $500,000. I learned about the importance of really listening to the supplier, collecting and analyzing relevant data, and getting management support for my plan. So with this type of question of response, you remember the slide? You are telling that person that you have the ability to learn, that you have technical skills, that you have communication skills, critical thinking, teamwork, adaptability, organization skills, everything. You're telling them in a specific example that you have all those skills that they are looking for. Another simple example. Can you give me an example of your ability to use analytical skills? Well, you can tell them I'm good at Excel and I have created several spreadsheets to improve processes, but what are you really telling them? You didn't describe a task, there were no actions, and the results are vague, and that will result in the interviewer asking you follow-up questions, and you're going to spend a lot of time on that, whereas you would have spent in another topic or question where you would have been able to sell yourself better. So remember to follow the steps, STAR technique. So some of the common questions: can you tell me about yourself? And I always try to include this one because it's very important. This is where we slip, because the interviewer is not supposed to ask personal questions, but this is where we start giving out information that we haven't been asked. So always tie your story to the business needs. You know what the position requires. You know what are the skills and the abilities that you need to perform that position. So focus on that and tie your story to that. Demonstrate 2 or 3 strengths directly related to the position, and especially think about how you can contribute to this company. What makes you different than any other of the people that are going to be interviewed? What makes me special, and what do I bring to the table for this position? So never include personal family or family information. Not, I'm married, have 3 kids, and one has asthma, I have to take him to the doctor, my car broke, all of that personal stuff that especially us Hispanics we're open, completely open. So that's when we start giving out information. Never talk about policies, politics and religion and faith, not the forum to discuss. And tell me, what are your weaknesses? That's one of the questions that they always ask. What's your weakness? So don't say that you are too hard on yourself, that you're too responsible. Really dig into yourself and find your weakness. Admit that you have one. Identify one that doesn't really directly affect the position that you're applying for, but make sure that you really accept that you have a weakness and identify what you are doing to improve or what you learned from this weakness, and let them know what the results or the time frame expected that you will have resolved that. And always during an interview, breathe. Remember, under a stress situation, you even forget how to breathe. So breathe and don't have this feeling that you need to answer right away after they ask you the question. Take your time to think your question. Maybe you can use a phrase like, good question, let me think about that a minute. That's a good quality, people that reflect. So you're asking me, verify and repeat the question so you're clear on the response. Or can you repeat me the question, please? No one has ever asked me that before. Just be honest and spontaneous, and take the time to respond. And prepare questions for the interviewer. They should be relevant, they should be thoughtful, and they should address the position, the skills, the qualifications. Avoid salary, benefits, or personal topics, what the values, the responsibilities, everything that you can, and through your research, you found out you should have questions. Where is this company? Where do you see this company in 5 years? That's one of the questions that sometimes they ask you. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, you can ask it back. Where do you see this company in 5 years? Is there room for growth? So that gives them the impression, or they reassure them that you really want the position, and demonstrate the knowledge of the industry and the company. And be aware of your body language. It's very, very important. There's a German psychologist called Albert Moravian. He did a study in the 80s, and he concluded that more than 90% of the message that we convey when we communicate our feelings or our emotions falls on the nonverbal communication, the things that we don't say with our mouth. So this rule, known as the Moravian rule, says that in personal or communication, only 7% of what we are saying or communicating is received by the person that is received from what we have said, from the words. 7%. The remaining 93% comes from what we have not said, from what's the nonverbal communication. So there are 3 elements to face-to-face communication. That's the words, the tone of the voice, and the body language. That's the whole of it. So to accurately understand the meaning of a message, we use 7% of what is said. We draw out from the 38% from the tone of the voice, how you're selling, how are you saying that. And 55%, what are you telling me with your body? So when there's a doubt or an incongruence or a misalignment of where what you say with your mouth and what you're expressing with the body. We tend to rely more on the body language than from the words. There is a clear example of that, and it's when they ask you, "Are you mad?" He says, "I'm not mad." You are telling you're not angry or you're not mad, but really you can be communicating other things instead of "I'm not mad." Maybe the tone of the voice, the defensive posture, the look. You don't want to look at the person in the face, facial expressions. So the nonverbal cues are much more convincing and credible than the literal meaning of the words. So even when you're saying, "I don't know," it's not the same as saying, "Oh, I don't know," rather than saying, "I'm sorry, I don't know, but I will find out that for you." You're saying no, but you're demonstrating with your body language, you're saying that I'm open to find out. I don't know, but I will learn. So another example of this situation is the medicine commercials, medications. So while you're looking at this family running in slow motion and hugging, smiling, giving flowers to each other, having a great life, the MC is you're listening to this medicine can cause kidney failure, obstruction in the lungs, COPD, depression, thoughts of suicide, and it's been known to cause death. So we're listening to that, but what we are seeing is really what's bringing the message. So be aware of your body language and what your body language is saying about you, the way that you sit, the way that you act, the way that the gestures that you make, what is it saying about you? So make sure to understand your body language. Make sure to create the impression or to know your body in a way that you know what you are doing. So the do's and don'ts: convey enthusiasm, confidence, friendliness, maturity, professionalism, and what I was talking about, know your nervous body language tendencies and try to avoid them. We do things that we are not aware that we are doing, and the only way that we can learn about them or see them is by looking at ourselves. So practice in front of a mirror, or have someone record yourself with a cell phone. If you have someone that you trust, have them interview me so that you can listen to your voice and see how your voice projects, how you conduct yourself, and your nervous language. So you are aware of what you're doing with your body. I play the guitar in my church, and they do a live, and I'd never seen it. One day, I'm going to watch the live. So there I was with my guitar. I used to sit. Now I play standing up. So that's another story. So there was I like this with my guitar all the time. And I had never realized that. So by looking at yourself, you can identify the things that you do and try to avoid them. Be articulate. Take time to reflect. If you need time to reflect, let me think about it, and be aware of your eye contact. And the negatives, don't be negative. The don'ts, try to avoid them. And that you can only get that through practice. Practice. Don't exaggerate or lie. Turn off your cell phone. It's better to turn it off instead of just putting it to vibrate, because some of them, they vibrate so loud that may interrupt. Don't interrupt the interviewer. Everything that person is saying is important to them, so it should be important to you. Don't engage in a debate, and don't use acronyms like LOL, FYI, TMI, stuff like that, because that's not a professional way of conducting yourself. For the closing, always thank them for the interview, for the time, clarify if you haven't before, what are the next steps, and always end up in a high note. Looking forward to hearing back from you, and really enjoyed the interview, and thank you for your time, okay? And after the interview, what's next? Well, after 48 hours, you send them a note. A written note is best, but if you can send an email, where you can recall pieces of the interview, of the conversation, so that this says, oh, that's the person that spoke about Dubai or asked me about golf tournament or whatever. So remind them of your skills and experience, and reiterate the interest in the position. And the most important thing, evaluate your interaction. What did I do well? What didn't go so well? What can I change in a future interview? What was the question that I totally blanked? And when I went out the door, it was like, oh my God, it was so easy. That's the one that you write down and you have it ready for next time. Because preparing for an interview is like preparing for a play or a performance. You write your script, you practice it, and when you're going to do the performance, it's going to flow more naturally. So good luck, everyone, with your job search. And oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, Dr.
And
Luna.
thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Luna. Okay, so now we're going to take audience questions, and let's see here. It looks like there's a few. The first question comes from Alondra, and the question is, how do you differ confidence from arrogance?
I think the body language is what's different. It's not the same to say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer. Well, let's say, I don't know the answer to that. So the way that you say it, the way that your body language expresses that, it's, you know, when someone is being arrogant instead of just being confident. When I say no, it's like, no, I don't know that. That's arrogance. No, I don't know that. So instead, confidence is, oh, I don't have the answer for that, but I will find out. That's mostly the difference. It's delivery.
Okay, so it has a lot to do with your tone as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. The next question comes from Bernice Cabral, and her question is, what red flags should I look for as an employer?
Well, as an employer or as a possible employee? I'm assuming that it's a possible employee, right?
No, as an employer.
Oh, as an employer, red flags when you're interviewing someone: lack of organization, incongruence of misalignment of what is written on the paper and what you are responding. When there's no, you look at the resume and the dates are a little bit skewed, like how can she be working from this year to this year and then from this year to this year here? Like, look for inconsistencies. That's one of the biggest red flags. And obviously the delivery during the interview, has this person done the research? Do they know what we do here? Do I think this person is here just for a paycheck? Or is this person here because they like the organization and they feel they want to work for that organization? They identify with the mission or the vision or the corporate values. So when the misalignment, that's the red flags.
Okay, great. The next question comes from Alondra Vidal. Her question is, what if they ask me about salary? How should I respond?
It is better not to compromise yourself or give an answer that will tie you to a specific amount, because if they were thinking more, then they're not going to pay you more. So the best way to avoid that is to say, I am open to negotiation, and I am sure that a good organization such as this will offer me a competitive salary. That's what I would recommend.
Okay. That's a great answer. Thank you. Let's see. We have a question here from Jonathan Santiago, and his question is, Maria, what is your most valuable interview question to ask and why?
For me, I think, can you explain in your words, what do we do here? Because that is a very wide and macro question, where is this person has done his or her homework and the research, that he has a good idea of what we do here, or just, he sent out 25 resumes just to see who calls me back. So to really see if that person knows about the organization and what you do there.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Lysandra Bonilla asks, is it better a 1-page or 2-page resume? How far back should I go on my resume? 10 years only?
Well, it's recommended that you put 10 years only, and it's better if it's just one page. Remember that when an organization is filling a position, they're going to get 30, 40, 50 resumes. So if you have a 3-page resume, they're not going to read all through the 3 pages. And that depends also on the position, because sometimes if you are hiring a CEO or a higher up position, then you will probably get a longer resume. But for regular positions, it's better if you can condensate in a good 1-pager. And just stick to the last 10 years. And then always more information, if necessary, provided, or just put at the end if you need more information, it can available per request.
Okay. Alondra Vidal's question is, what's a good example of a question to have for an interviewer? So for the employer.
Okay. Some of the things that you like to be asked is that some questions that demonstrate that you are already picturing yourself in the organization, like what is the evaluation method that you are going to use to evaluate my work? How often will I be evaluated? Is there a possibility of promotions inside the company? So it's questions that let that person know that you are already visualizing yourself in the company. And also, where do you see this company in the next 5 years? What are the plans for this company? Because you want to be in a company that has, plans to grow and it's a solid company. So all these type of questions.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Luna. We have a couple more questions. Samuel wants to know, are there any online or physical resources for Latino young professionals to learn about career paths and how to land their perfect job?
I think I can't give you a specific example, but I think there might be organizations there focused on the Latino young professionals. So it's just a matter of searching for them. Maybe Alianza would be a better resource for that than myself, but there must be some organizations out there.
Okay. And then the last question comes from Lysandra Bonilla again. And this is a great question now with the coronavirus. Handshakes, is this going away?
Yes, definitely. That's the great question. Now that we are doing the social distancing, the handshake is it's not a good idea. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Well, I think that's all of the questions. We can wait a few more minutes to see if any more pop up. I actually have a question, Dr. Luna. I wanted to ask about perfume. I've heard a lot of things about don't wear any perfume to interviews.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, you need to be neutral. Yeah, it's not recommended that you use. I mean, you can use some kind of perfume, but nothing that's too strong, and you don't bathe yourself in perfume. Just a touch, would be. It's not bad to have it, But yeah, nothing. And the nails, no big nails with the red colors and stuff. If you have tattoos, you should cover them, because some organizations, they don't mind people having tattoos, but some others do. So you don't want to cause that impression. So if you have tattoos that you can cover, well, cover them, and so that you are not showing them. And do not use excessive jewelry or short skirts for the ladies.
What about heels? Are there any rules? Heels?
Yeah, you can use heels, not too not too high heels, regular heels, the ones that you would use for work if you were business casual, not platforms or those long ones that you use to go to clubbing.
Okay, thank you. So let's see if we have any more questions. Okay, we have a few more questions. Bernice wants to know, are open-toed shoes acceptable during an interview?
Some organizations, it depends on the organization. I would recommend closed shoes just because you don't know what is their policy. But some organizations, they don't mind open-toed as long as it's covered in the back. But it's best to go, on the safe side and just wear closed shoes.
Okay. Lisandra Bonilla wants to know, when should we follow up after the interview?
That depends, because you should ask the employer what are the next steps, and ask how long should I wait until I call. If he tells you that you need to call back, how long should I wait before I call, and ask for a specific time.
Okay. Great. And then last question, Jonathan Santiago says, since handshakes are going away, what's the next best thing to build first impressions?
Yourself, the way that you conduct yourself, the way that you talk to the person, the way that you say hello, your eye contact. So it's everything except the handshake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question. Lots of questions today. Lizeth Veronica, what is the best way to practice interviewing if it has been about 5 to 10 years since your last interview?
Well, you should start by recording yourself, create the questions and record yourself, or find someone that you trust and have them help you interview. There are organizations that can help you with that. I know Career Source has interview practices that they can help you with that too, or just a friend, and record yourself so you can listen to your voice. Sometimes we're not aware that we're talking either too low or too high. So just practicing in front of the mirror.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. Well, it doesn't look like we have any more questions from the audience. I'm going to share Urbander's website here. So be sure to check out their website for more resources and information. And Dr. Luna mentioned that you can connect with her on LinkedIn. Dr. Luna, what is your name on LinkedIn, your full name?
It's Maria Luna Garcia de la Noceda.
Okay. So be sure to connect with her on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for being here with us today, Dr. Luna. We really appreciate it for hosting the event 2 times in English and in Spanish.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. And don't forget, next Friday, we do have our First Friday event, our virtual First Friday. Check it out on the event section of our Facebook and get your VIP tickets for a private Q&A with Antonio Martorell, Silverio Perez, and PJ Cinzuela. And don't forget to fill out the census. And I think that's it for today. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And before I leave, just if you have any questions that you didn't want to ask in the chat, you can find my email on the website as well. You feel free to email me as well.
It's on Urbander?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
You can find it there.
All right. So Dr. Luna's website email is on her website, urbander.com. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.